Welcome to Act 2, You're On. Join us weekly at our studio roundtable as Rhonda, Kate, and Linda invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy. Launch your next great act with authenticity and purpose.
Summon your courage, superstar, and step into the limelight. So grab a coffee
or a martini,
and let's set the stage for a grand entrance. It's Act 2.
You're on. Greetings, friends, and welcome to A2YO, Act 2, You're On, a community of change makers, igniting personal and societal renaissance through inspirational conversations and purpose-driven topics. I am Rhonda Garvin-Conaway, and I have the pleasure of being with my awesome A2YO co-hosts.
I'm Linda. And I'm Kate Levy. Hi there. We are also joined behind the scenes by our producers, Susan, the incomparable Nagel, and Kathy, how could I help, Carswell?
Yes, they are phenomenal.
They are.
And speaking of phenomenal, today's show is going to entertain you, inform you, and excite you because we have a phenomenal woman with us. In the studio, we're super excited to be speaking with Karen Mangiacotti. And before we converse with her, we're going to tell you a little bit about who she is. Karen Mangiacotti is an outspoken comedian, writer, artist, teacher, speaker, podcaster, mom of 7 children, and adventurous thinker. She is a strong advocate of mindful thinking and asking for what you want and living an empowered life. Karen speaks with expertise and humor on gender issues, parenting, homeschooling, autism, co-housing, sex and sexuality, positive self-imagery, and being ridiculously happy and super cool. So this conversation is going to be amazing because of all that. And I have in my possession this book written by Karen Mangiacotti, Close to the Bone. And we'd love to dive in and start talking about how did you birth this creation?
Thanks. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It is so great to be here. I love everything about what you guys are doing. So thank you so much. And how did I birth this book? Well, my youngest child is 10 now. So I think I'm slowing down on birthing actual children. So I had a little more time. And to be honest, part of what I wanted to do was have something, I was hitting 50 and I'm like, I want a solid thing that lives after me. Mm. And this felt like that. I also, I love my babies in their 20s and in their teens who are growing up, and they listen to me a little bit, but they're going to want to listen to me later. And I thought, I'm going to chronicle it right now so that you have it on paper. It's actually, to be honest, all of the writing that I have done since parenthood has in some way been like me wanting to give a message to my kids as well. Mm. That's the honest part because they're my major motivation. But the second piece is that I have a bestie since I was little who nags me and nags me and nags me about being productive. And she is great. We all need that, right? We all need somebody to be like, hey, you haven't written anything in a while. Why haven't you written anything in a while? What are you doing? The world needs to hear from you. Come on. So that was really, I'm blessed to have that kind of nag in my life.
Yeah. I love a nag.
Yes,
good.
We do love a nag. And Karen, I just want to say I loved what you wrote about her in the book. It was really just such a beautiful way to start the book. And I love that I just want to say this book was so moving. This book was an experience. It wasn't just a book that you read. It's a book that you experience. I laughed and I cried through the whole book, honestly. And I just want you to know that I did read some of it in the bathroom because I love that you wrote, you want to be in the bathrooms all over the world. And it's just such a beautiful way to say, I want my book out there. I just thought it was hilarious. And I just really, really loved that. But tell us about that title. And the cover art, which I found very intriguing with that mischievous look and balancing on obviously because you can't. So it was mystical, but funny and hilarious all at the same time.
Thank you. And I don't know if you noticed about the cover of this book, but those are my brain scans on my dress. That's my brain.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that funny?
That's
and
awesome.
It's my brain in many little ways and whatever. So I thought that was really funny. That was actually, and I'm wearing sneakers that have sushi on them. So there's a lot of fun things on this for me. What else am I? I'm also wearing, now that you just asked me, I'm like, oh, and I'm wearing a necklace my daughter made and a scarf. This is actually a very cool scarf that, oh gosh. So I'm like, how much do I have to include about this? So my husband and I get married every 5 years. You probably read that in the book, but we renew our vows with each other every 5 years. And the last time that we did it, I have a beautiful fabric artist friend, and she took a quote from every one of our kids about what they wish for us for the next 5 years. And she put it in copper writing on this gorgeous scarf. So this scarf to me, I have several scarves that are like what I need to be wrapped in sometimes. One is my mom's prayer shawl that she had when she died. That's my absolute like go-to comfort item. But this one is sort of my like, I have like a whole basketball team on my side, right? And you've got their quotes there. And so this is my kind of scarf that I wear when I want to feel that love. So that's a little bit about the cover art. And then the balancing on the stones and the entire scene was photoshopped by my brilliant partner and husband, Mark Miller, who he's also, we should all be so lucky. I said a girl in your corner and a man in your life and a girl in your corner. And I've both. The man in my life is also my biggest fan and is a whiz with the photoshopping. So that's kind of how that all happened. And Close to the Bone is, it strikes me on a number of levels. First, it's like when you hit something close to the bone, you've kind of hit the nerve. You've really gotten to the juicy part of what you're trying to say, which is what I'm always hoping for. But the story came out because my little guy, when he was about 3, my youngest child, he would always crawl into bed for snuggles in the morning in his little onesie. And yeah, I know he's 10 now, so I'm feeling super nostalgic. And I'm like, oh, and the hands, those little chubby hands. Anyway, so he was so good. He would crawl in the morning, and my husband, who is like, a slender man at 6'4", he says to my son, how come you always cuddle mommy and you never cuddle me first? And my son, who is a mindful, thoughtful little guy, he kind of like, he touches my arm and he feels my arm and he goes, because mommy's skin is not so close to the bone. That is the cutest thing I've ever heard. I am more cuddly than my fit and slender husband. And I thought, okay, I'll take that. Yes. He's like, and my daughter just told me, you're like memory foam.
That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
It's pretty awesome, right? I thought, I'll take that. If that's how my family thinks of me, I'll take it. So I titled the book that for those 2 reasons. That's that's kind of the book origin. And also, as I mentioned in the book, I had kind of a health scare that also birthed the book, where I had these problematic and weird, unexplicable brain tumors. So I am actually very happy to announce that I recently was in the States and I had an MRI, and there were multiple, and some have disappeared. And one very large one, they're benign. They're not cancerous. Yay. Knock on all the wood. They are not cancerous. And the biggest one has shrunk in size. Wow. And I didn't have access over the past year to Western medicine because I was in Costa Rica and unable to leave in quarantine. So I have visited every witch doctor and acupuncturist and all of the things and a serious regiment of meditation. And I'm going to just say that that's where we are right now. So I'm continuing all of that. And and Close to the Bone was also a little bit in reference to that, because that's also my brain tumors were close to the bone of my head. So, that's all tied up into this one project, is all of those things and more.
And so much more.
Yeah, some layered stuff.
Would love to tell you that we liked you immediately
just from how Rhonda described you. And then you read your book, and we just fell in love with you immediately. And there's a real fascinating balance between this sense of reverence and irreverence, real depth of meaning, but also an appreciation for the absurd, survivor, thriver. You are one of the most fascinating people I've ever read about, and to get to hear you immediately, you're quite an exceptional person. We're so thrilled that you're here. And
thank you. I certainly appreciate the absurd. Absurd is, I would say, the cornerstone of my being.
And it is clearly an unapologetic life. I don't know if you could speak to that a little.
I don't mean unapologetic when you have wronged somebody. I mean unapologetic for who you are. I think that we as women are so buried under this, I feel bad. If you look at popular shows, actually, that have female leads, one of them is titled, I'm sorry. One of them is titled, I feel bad, insecure, right? Like we really, that's where we speak from almost first as women. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, and we sometimes say, I'm sure you've heard this, like, take the I'm sorry's out of your email. And what are you left with, right? Lead. And I'm trying to teach, I have a 12-year-old daughter who is such a people pleaser and trying to embrace self-empowerment. And we've just had this conversation. I'm like, hey, let's replace I'm sorry, right? Let's replace I'm sorry as you lead, and instead try to lead with appreciation. So instead of saying, I'm so sorry I'm late, we say, thank you so much for waiting for me. Thank you so much, right? Yeah. So we're really, and so now she's like, I'm sorry. And thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. But as women, it's the air we breathe, right? We come, so much of the social and planning and the weight of the world is sometimes on our shoulders, and we just feel like we're never doing enough and we're backing behind this. So if we just stop and we say, hang on, like, I don't need to feel badly about every single thing in my life. I'm sorry I didn't put on moisturizer. Like, we really do kind of sometimes lead with this. And if we just back away from that and we say, look, this is exactly who I am. And, you're not going to be everybody's favorite person. And that's totally fine. You have to limit that. I have pretty vivid purple and blue hair at the moment, and have for almost 10 years. And I noticed a major shift in my life when I dyed my hair purple. So many people stopped talking to me. And I thought, cool, that's awesome for you self-editing, because if you don't like what's on my head, you are not liking what's coming out of my mouth. But then other people started to talk to me. And so it became this really, I thought, like, okay, if you are just exactly who you are, it will filter away people who are not a good match for you and bring those to you who are. And you never have to be sorry about that, right? Because there's room for all of us at the table. Whatever you're bringing, we want it. I want it at the table, whatever it is. And so if we're all doing this, I'm sorry, I want to be like the next person. I don't get your unique diversity. I don't get your little zhuzh that I really want everybody's actual genuine self at the table. So I hope that we are all able to move forward and kind of embrace, just say, stopping feeling bad. I feel bad. Stopping, and just saying, like, living with dignity, walking with grace, all of those things that we want, but just not leading with regret or shame. There's no place for shame in a beautiful life. And I think that shame is so prevalent for all of us, that it's good to be aware of it and be like, no, thank you, shame. Not today. Not today. I don't need that. So that's kind of what I mean by an unapologetic life. But a beautiful I'm sorry is a lovely tool to have in your basket, because
absolutely,
we all are in positions where that is necessary sometimes.
Thank you for that. And when you share that, it gives us all permission to be led by you and be reminded of those important pieces of wisdom. whether we're apologizing too much or we're carrying shame, there's no time in our beautiful existence for those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of time, a mom of 7 and doing phenomenal things in many different ways. But one of the pieces of writing that you share is through a blog. And I recently read about the buy-in channel. And we were hoping you could talk to us about what that means.
Yeah, it's good. I love this. So this actually comes collaboratively. So my husband has autism. My husband is autistic, and it is a trip. It is such a trip to be with him and understand his perspective, because I am all emotional. I am all the emotions all the time. I'm generally extreme, all the many emotions, and he's Spock, right? So he is logical, and I have to explain emotion to him. So when we were first together, I would say like, okay, this is what they literally said, but here's the emotional message, right? Here's the emotional message. But we came to realize there's another messaging system that is invisible. And it is what we now call the buy-in channel. So it's when somebody says, somebody maybe says to you, oh, I thought you were going to whatever. They're buying in. They want you to buy in to feeling obligated to how they think you should live, right? So they are asking you to buy into feeling bad, maybe, because we don't always feel that shame and need to, say I'm sorry on our own. It's often given to us, when people want us to buy in. All of the other mothers are volunteering for this, right? And you now need to buy into the fact that to be a good mother, you need to volunteer for this, or whatever it is. And so we had to really decipher this. And this is so valuable to me to have to kind of explain, or to explain with my husband, like, there's a whole thing that we don't acknowledge, where there's an emotional level of, we want you to buy into, this is your obligation. You have to show up, you have to do this, and you have to do this in this way. And my husband will be like, well, why? And I'll be like, well, because that's what we do. And he's like, nope, we don't, that's not our reasoning, right? In this family, we don't do things because that's what we do. We do things because that's what makes the world a better place. We do things because that's how we love each other. We do things because, there is a reason for doing things. And it's really great to have him to keep me honest about that. And I'm not just doing this because it is expected, or it's an obligation. And I think, and one of the pieces of this is, I simply don't acknowledge passive aggressiveness, right? When people say, oh, it must be nice to be able to do whatever you want, I say, it is. And absolutely. You can do it too.
I say no passive aggressive, just aggressive.
I said, well, that's exactly right. And in our family, because not only my husband, but my son has autism, we don't speak in subtleties. We say, this is what I need from you right now. Right. I'll say to him, hey, I want to vent for the next 20 minutes, and I want you to agree with me. And then I want you to hold me. And he's like, got it. So
that chapter was so fantastic. I mean, all of the chapters are so important, but that one I felt was like a public service announcement. I don't know if I've ever read anything so concrete, close to the bone about autism. I feel that chapter was so revealing. It was a beautiful chapter.
Thank you. I really, I love speaking on this because, and my husband is lovely as well in the way that he is very forthright. He's like, this is how my brain works. This is what we're doing. And I'm so sorry, people, but it's not uncomplicated. The man is one of the most loving, giving, beautiful souls, but doesn't smile. So people are always like, I'm pretty sure your husband hates me. I'm like, that's his face. That's just his face. I will smile it up for both of us. Talk to me. It's okay. And, it's just, it takes a minute to get used to him. It takes a minute, to adjust. And honestly, it's another way that people are sometimes filtered out. If you can't sign on to my ADD and his autism and our whatever we are, that's cool. There's people that can. And if not, we have 7 kids. We have plenty of people. But I love this. I love thinking of however your brain works as your unique gift to the world. Yes. And we, at my school that I teach at Journey in Costa Rica, we had a neurodiversity week. And we came in and we explained to the kids, I said, okay, this is what ADD means. It means this is my list on a Saturday and 10% of everything gets done and maybe 50 by the next day. But it's, this is how my brain works. And my husband came in and he said, okay, I have autism. This is how my brain works. And one of the things he said was, I'm immune to peer pressure. And the high school kids were like, what? Like, they were like, rewind, go back to that, please. What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, I don't, because he doesn't have the buy-in channel. It's not innate. So for example, he doesn't drink coffee, because if you think of the first time you drank coffee, it was probably pretty gross. And he did that and he was like, that's gross. Not going to drink it. Done. And I'm like, I did that too, but I'm like, that's gross. But oh, look at it. Friends, they're all in the cafe and it's so social. And I want to be, and now I'm addicted, of course, to coffee. And the same is true with alcohol. He took a sip and he's like, that's cough medicine. That's disgusting. And he never had the peer pressure to tell him to do otherwise. So it was so empowering for these kids to just realize that you can actually do that. You can say, you know what, I'm going to be immune to peer pressure. And if it tastes like cough medicine, I'm not going to drink it, or whatever it is. You do not need to buy in. And he has, he's lived his whole life not buying in. And it's an inspiration. It's when I saw the faces of those kids, I was like, man, you need to take this on the road. You need to get this message out that there are plenty of ways to live your life. And some of them can be just exactly unapologetically being exactly who you are. And it's so great to hear. And it's so great that, that we've done this. Both Mark and I have kind of done this and, found suitable mates in each other, have lived our lives, are employed, you can do all of this and live a full life and just say, nope, to anything that's not a good fit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a gift.
Yes, absolutely.
It is. I'm happy to have it. And I'm happy to have a partner who inspires and encourages it, and a son as well. My boy who is autistic. So I have, my 7 kids are all of them very, distinct characters. As my older son said one day, we were in the car and I said, hey, why can't you be more like your friend Logan? He's so nice. And he goes, Mom, you could have chosen to have nice kids, or you could have chosen to have funny kids, and you chose funny, and that's on you. And I was like, all right, that's fair.
That is fair.
They're all of these distinct characters, and they're so lovely. But my boy with autism, we were like, I think he gets weirdest kid. And it's tough competition. But he also, he exactly lives his life. He is like living in the woods and homesteading and wearing whatever he wants and doing whatever he wants. And it's lovely and an inspiration, And so I love watching this in my kids. I've loved raising this boy who has been so keeping me honest and well, why do we do that? And I have to really be honest and say, okay, I'm going to need to think about that. We're going to have to figure that one out. And it's so interesting that when people say to me, why that many kids? Why do you keep having babies? Only 4 or 5. I have 4 from my body and 3 have been bonuses in my marriages, but in my one marriage. And I say, because it's fascinating. I know I watch these kids grow, some of them from, knowing them in my body, which is a whole other trip. And they are exactly who they are from the time that they're babies until the time that they're adults. You know, I have some that are rule followers, some that are not, some that are this. And, you know, I have a daughter, Boo, who is such a force of nature. She is a force. And I say about her, she was born with her hands on her hips. You know, she came into the world with like, what am I going to do? Who's going to mess with me? Cause I'm taking it all down. And she is exactly that way now. And it is so exciting to watch her on the precipice. She's going into politics and I'm like, go, sister, have at it. We need you so much. And she's like, oh, but I'm not going to be front and center. I want to do all of the scheming. I want to do all of the real architecture of how I want the world to be. That's who I want to be. So I'm like exactly what my girl who was born with her hands on her hips should be. Right. Yeah. So to me, it's been a fascinating journey into watching all of these people grow and I just saw them, a few of them we were having a conversation on Mother's Day. And it's kind of nice because now that they're out in the world and they're not, you know, they're having more influences than just our house, which our house is a different place. So they're having more influences and they're like, wow, you know, it's kind of, they're recognizing their privilege as 20 somethings in the world, but they said it's kind of a privilege to have parents who we can come to with absolutely anything and they will take us seriously and they will think about it. And, you know, my oldest was having a kind of existential crisis when he last visited and he's like, he's 23 and he's like, you know, everybody's saying buy a house and get a wife. I don't want a house and a wife, Mom. I don't want a house and a wife. I'm like, okay, it's okay. You don't have to have a wife and a house. And we were just like, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to protect your spirit. That's my advice to you. Because you have this beautiful spirit and whatever you need to do to let your light shine, Rhonda Garvin Conway is what we were telling him. And really nothing else matters. You know, in our house, we don't care about grades. We don't care about success. You know, we care about your spirit and the way that you walk through the world. Basta. And that has been a really nice way to live. My daughter and my son who are 10, the other day we watched the movie Prom on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen this, but we love it. I love musicals, but so we're watching this and in it, James Corden, when he came out to his parents, they didn't receive it well. And so after the movie, my daughter said to me, what is this coming out thing? Why do people have to come out like it's like a big thing? And I go, they don't. And she goes, well, we're not doing that. If we're gay, she says about her and her brother, if we're gay, we're just going to show up with whoever we show up with and you're going to live with it. And we're like, okay. And she goes, any race. We're like, we know. Like she was like, she's like telling us. It was so funny. But I thought that's okay. Good for you in being very clear at 12 years old that you don't have to answer to us, actually. And you don't, you know? So that piece, I feel like maybe one of our contributions to the world is that we have these kids who are like, I'm not doing it. Not today. They won't do it. So I like that.
I'm curious, were you born with your hands on your hips? You have this amazing presence, this code by which you live. And I'm wondering, did you just come out that way or what has made you a person who can define all of these amazing thoughts? Like I'm busily writing them down here.
So the answer is interesting. Maybe Rhonda Garvin Conway has known me since junior high.
Yes. Yes.
So she has a sense that I'm a little bit of an oddball always, maybe. I didn't know that. To be honest, later, I was just talking to an old friend from high school and she was like, I always was looking at you like, man, she does whatever she wants. And I thought, really? Like I think you are who you are and you don't even know. Right. So I am the only one like this in my family. I have to say, I'm the one who shows up. Like I was back home visiting and I feel like I swoop into town and I'm like, hey, here are all the unsaid things. Here's what the real truth of the matter is. I drop all of these things and my family's like, what? And then I fly back to Costa Rica and they settle it all out. And that's just kind of, who I am. But I grew up, my dad was a cop. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I wasn't raised by philosophers or people that, they were pretty, this is what you do because this is what you do. And they, thankfully they were like, okay, Karen's a little bit weird, but okay. I was the fourth kid. They were so done. So they were like, let's see what happens there. Oh. So it did work out. So I think, yes, I think I may have been born also with my hands on my hips, which is why sometimes my daughter, I'm like, it's so hard to raise yourself. Mm-hmm. It is so hard. But because, she's a lot like me, but with her own thoughts and opinions. So there's no room for that. Sometimes I'm like, I told you to question authority, but not my authority. So yeah, I think that might be it. And also I think that, I think that my ADD, which is strong, the force of ADD is strong in this one, has always allowed me to look at things in a million different ways, almost simultaneously. Right. So that's kind of how I come at things. And I'm usually able to say, wait a minute, what about this bizarre angle that nobody's thought of? Because that's just, and so I think that's kind of what my gift to the table, I think, is this ability to just be like, nobody thought of it in this weird way. And that's just an organic thing that has always happened, right? That's why I got kicked out of Sunday school, because that's why I was always on the bench in elementary school.
The bench.
The bench, right?
I was on the bench too, Karen.
Good.
I can't believe it.
More kids belong on that bench.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah, there's a lot we can talk about with that for sure. But I want to make sure that we get in because you have had such fascinating things that you've had to deal with and overcome. And I want to know your perspective on how can a feeling of powerlessness become opportunity?
That's a great question. And I kind of wrote that. And to be honest, I hadn't thought through the answer. And I thought, good, I'm not going to think about it till they ask me.
We love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And when you say brave, Karen, you've mentioned, and I neglected to say this, that I've had the privilege of knowing you for a good chunk of life. We did meet in junior high and we shared high school days together. We were performers together, and I always admired you, but you were courageous in my eyes. There was something about you that the hands were on the hips and you walked your own walk and you were your own person. And so I think this question's perfect for you because you're going to demonstrate this courage that you just burned so brightly for all of us in your answer. You're on.
Rhonda, I think it's a really good point, and that may have been how you saw me, and I didn't know it. So I had a really remarkable experience at a time when I felt very, very powerless. It's in the book under Sometimes Your House Burns Down, I think. And I had a year. 2007 for me was like a year. My mom died. My house literally burned down. My husband left me. It was like, really? Really, guys? And I say this, it's kind of like the universe keeps saying to you, like, hey, hey. And if you don't listen to that little hey, it gets louder and louder until you have no option but to listen to it. And at that time, I was feeling super defeated and super powerless. Like, my foundation, my mom, I was close to my mom. I'm not the kind of, I talk to my mom every day. My mom was a riot. She's so funny. She was her own thing for sure. And it was really hard losing her. It was really hard having my house burned down. It was really hard, even though my marriage wasn't necessarily empowering me. It was hard to lose it with small children and not know what was going to happen next. It was a very powerless time. So at that time, a couple of things switched it up for me. One was that I said, okay, you know what? At the time I was kind of doing yoga and I'm like, I love yoga and it's lovely, but yoga is not cutting it. I need to do, and I started kickboxing. And kickboxing for me was like, it made me feel physically powerful. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all you can do. Right. I at that time didn't have a lot of tools to feel emotionally powerful or spiritually powerful because I just kept getting knocked down. So this change and, change the thing that you can. I could change the way that I was, moving my body, and I started kickboxing, and that kind of was like, I'm pretty powerful, So, and then I kept saying to, I'd be like kickboxing and I'd be like, you are so powerful. You're so powerful. And if you say it enough, you start to believe it. So I did that. And then I happened to go on a leadership retreat. And at this leadership retreat, they were, one of the things that was, we sort of said, what are your weaknesses? And at the time I was with a partner who was very happy to point out my weaknesses, which are that I'm like a big thinker. I'm a lot of ideas. I'm very frenetic and whatever, but I'm not necessarily a detail person. And so, he would be like, well, you don't even know what day trash is. You don't even know and it does feel powerless because you sometimes think that skills that you don't have are the only important ones, instead of looking at the skills that you actually have. Mm-hmm. Right. So on this leadership retreat, I was like, oh, I'm not very detail oriented. And everyone was like, what are you even, what? And they said, do you know what you just did this morning? You wrote a children's book. You led this group. You did that, and they pointed out the things that I had done literally before 11 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah. And I was thinking, I am powerful. And it's okay that you're not powerful in every way. Mm-hmm. That's why we need each other, right? That's why we all want whatever everybody's bringing to the table, is because our powers are different. But that doesn't diminish mine. I have this great power to do all of these things that are a little bit out there. And other people have the power to add the details, make it happen, have a producer, right? Who is everything. And so when we team up, it makes, and that's, we say that about our partner. I say that about my partnership with my husband, mm-hmm. right? So he has Aspergian, he is autistic. So details are his thing. I am super social. So that helps him balance out that. Mm. And so, when you partner with people, when you team up with people in work, when you have friends, you're kind of creating, the whole that we need. And so one of the things I think when you have a situation when you're feeling powerless is to just shift your thinking and just say, okay, I'm not going to spend all of my time thinking about the things I can't do. And I'm going to think about the things that I can do, right? I'm going to concentrate on my gifts. I'm going to concentrate on good things that have happened. The best thing that has ever happened through my writing is that I get letters. I still get letters from women who are like, oh my gosh, I wore a bikini because of you. I left an abusive relationship because of you. And I have those letters in a file that is like, when I need it, my mom's prayer shawl comes on and I read my letters and I think like, okay, I'm powerful. So whatever you need to do to make yourself feel powerful, do it, and do it every day, many times a day, because that is what you need to protect your spirit. Right? Because your spirit's what you're bringing to the table. So that's what I would say. It's never that you have no choice. There's a great example recently in history, Meghan Markle, right? Talk about bucking with tradition. I mean, is there any more solid tradition in our currently in our cultural worlds? There is not. The royal family is pretty big. And she thankfully had a great mom, which we could never underestimate, the power of a great mom, and a great partner who supported her. And she just said, nope, right? Not today. I am not buying into this. I'm not buying into this because you don't treat me well. And I deserve to be treated well. And you can, even in this situation where it feels like you can't do that, can't just leave the royal family. Yeah, you can, Meghan Markle, and you did. And that is a great inspiration, right? That's like, you really know that there is no such thing as I have no choice.
Thank you for that. Karen, you mentioned one of your articles, which made such an impact on me, and I've shared it with many people about the bikini.
I love that chapter.
We would love to get into that. And I would also love to have the gift of you reading from your book. I don't know if that's a segment you want to read about or something else you'd like to select, but
if you want that one, we can totally do that one. Do you want me to do the whole thing? Do you want me to, what do you want? You tell me.
Well, I defer to your spirit. So tell it, just maybe a teaser would be good.
Yeah.
15. Yes. So yeah, this was great for me. I wrote this article because I was actually in a kickboxing class and somebody was saying, you know, bikini season's coming up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but
you can.
Fuck you.
If you don't, we will.
I am not here because bikini season is coming up. I'm here because I'm powerful. And so I really was like, I'm going to fucking wear a bikini to this class is what I and I don't care. And I am not, I am not now and have never been thin. And I'm memory foam. It's great. I love, and when I say to people, oh, actually, I am my ideal weight, people are like, what? You can't do that. You can't say that.
You can.
I get a lot of pushback and I'm like, it's ideal because I have this, my body does what I want it to do. I function. I hug. I wear a bikini and I am not about to spend 1 second hating on my body. I don't have that much time left in my life. There's another kind of factor here. I know I'm getting to it. Hold on.
No.
You were like, oh, these are the questions. I'm like, I know, but I talk so much. You can edit whatever you want, kids.
No.
This is the conversation we want.
So there's an element of my life where in my family, we are not necessarily blessed with longevity. I am working to change this, in many different ways, but I have always lived with the idea that I might not live past 65 because nobody in my family really does. So I've got a lot of living to do and I don't have 1 second for shame or body hating or hating other people or bitching. I just don't. I don't have it. I have time for you. I have time to love my family and my friends and eat good food and wear a bikini to the beach. So this is also part of, I think, why I seem so intense because, so some people have more years maybe on the planet than I do. I want to remember the bad part of this is I haven't saved for retirement. So, okay. So I wear a bikini because fuck you. Here are the top 6 reasons why I, as a 43-year-old size 12 mother of 4 with thunder thighs, feel totally justified in rocking a 2-piece. Number 1, I don't give a shit. I do not exist for your viewing pleasure. And your ideas about who should and should not be seen in a bikini are 0% my concern. I have not always been married to the wonderful, supportive man among men, my husband editor that I am now married to. I was once married to a man who said things like, they really shouldn't make bikinis in any size over 8. Now, I have not been a size 8 since I was about 8 years old. So this was kind of a dick move on his part. It also confirmed my suspicions that people who make rules about how other people should treat their bodies are best left alone, far away from people who may inadvertently offend them. I also have sisters who say things like, she has no business being in a bikini. Well, lucky for me, I am not wearing a bikini to drum up business. I was on the beach in Miami once when a 300-pound grandma walked happily down the beach in a brightly colored 2-piece. This was intensely disturbing to a group of vacationing suburban women talking about yoga addiction, shame eating, and jeggings. There were gasps, there were sighs, and there was one Xanax-deprived woman who, so distraught, she cried out, "That's just not right." It's a bathing suit, people. People should all just relax. Number 2. I have a bikini body. I know this because I put on an actual bikini on my body. If you're waiting to break out the bikini for when your body is perfect, resign yourself to a 1-piece. Yes, of course. 3, it's closer to being naked. Swimming is best done naked. When the laws of society make that a little bit awkward, we should at least be able to swim with the least amount of wet fabric on our bodies. 4, my belly has earned it. If there is one part of my body that should be able to do whatever the fuck it wants, it's my midsection. 4 of the greatest people I know have come from there. Hardworking and flauntable is my stomach. 5, I have daughters. I want to show them that a woman comfortable in her body who is active right alongside them. A woman who's not sitting poolside under a big cover up because anything less might be considered inappropriate. And 6, it's by popular request. Okay, maybe not popular, but certainly frequent requests come in for me to wear a bikini. Okay, it's really only ever my husband but for this particular ensemble, but he's tenacious and I like to throw him a bone occasionally. And then my husband writes, editor's note, thank you, honey, for the bone. So that was my article. And I was super happy. It's been translated into, I think, 25 different languages, and it was on the cover. I have friends in Amsterdam who were like, we were walking by the newsstand and saw you in a bikini on the newsstand. And I was like, that's excellent. So this kind of started, and then, there was a lot of follow-up and a lot of different things about this, but I loved this because basically it's just one little way in which we can dip into an unapologetic life, right? Because I was once in a seminar for women, and they had to say that one of the questions was, what's your favorite body part? Nobody could answer this. Everyone's like, it's the most intimidating question sometimes you can ask a group of women. So one woman decided, my lips. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, my lips, right? Because it's non-controversial. Like, we all have lips and it's not that much of a difference or whatever. But I was like, my ass. I'm super proud of which is giant, by the way. I have a giant ass. And everyone's like, there's this like, oh, you can't do that. But I just think I love this. I love being the person who gives other people permission to be whatever, because I don't give a fuck. So, I'm always the first on the dance floor because everybody wants to dance and nobody wants to be the first person on the dance floor. So I'm like, I'll take that off your hands, right? I'll jump in. I did roller derby. I've started out like Bambi on ice. I was terrible, but I was like, this gives other people permission to go forward, to do it, right? To just get on your skates and do it till you can do it. Right? There's no shame in trying. In fact, isn't that the least shameful thing that we can do is try? It's a great and powerful message. Like, yeah, I suck at this. And here I am doing it anyway. And I luckily have my whole family. This is my other requirement for my children. They have to be funny and they have to dance. So we all dance. So the Mangiacotti Millers are always the first on the dance floor. Nice. And we're insane. So nobody thinks they look foolish next to us. And I love that.
Karen, I have the unfortunate job, they made me, to be the timekeeper, which I hate to do because I feel like we could talk endlessly. We've only talked about a few chapters, but normally we ask for a kernel of wisdom for our folks who are listening, who are leaning into their second act, third act, fourth act. I feel like each segment of our conversation, you've nicely given us these little kernels. Any final thing that would be helpful for our listeners to know about, I don't know, bravery or leaning into the next change?
Right. Well, okay. I think that if you're gonna have a mantra, right? If you're going to kind of have something that you can pull on, because this is, I think it's a good idea to have phrases that you lean on, right? So and my kids all know, like we say in our family, walk with grace. This is, and so they know, like, okay, it's a trigger, and they'll hear my voice for the rest of their lives saying walk with grace. I know this to be true. So if you want to give yourself something, I think it's nice to remember that's not mine. That's not mine. So when somebody comes at you with their aggression or their insecurity or their demands on you, you can remember that's not mine. That's theirs, right? And I can love them through that. And I can empathize with, maybe it's coming from a place of their own insecurity or their own pain, and I can connect with them on that. But I'm going to protect my spirit. And I'm going to remember when that's not mine. If somebody comes up with you and they're passive aggressively trying to manipulate you or getting you to buy in, you can remember, that's not mine. I don't need to, you put it down, but I do not need to pick it up. So that is the thing that I think I remember as a phrase sometimes when I feel myself like, what? What are you even coming at me with? I remember, oh, okay. It's yours. You that's whatever you've got. You want me to give it to you, and I will take it, as I said, and love you through the parts that I can, but I'm not going to let it dampen my spirit. I don't have enough time. I have no time for that.
Juicy. I feel like I needed that one today. I'm literally going to take a Post-it note and put it in my car and drive around with that one today.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And keeping it in your little toolbox of phrases that you tell yourself right beside I'm powerful is that's not mine.
Yeah.
Karen, awesome. I'm so grateful to call you a friend. And I think the world is better for you in many, many ways. And this conversation helps us just get all of those incredible messages out to people who need to hear it. We all need to hear it.
Mm-hmm. We all do. And it's me too, right? Every day.
Yes. We can support one another and lift one another up with these brilliant ideas and then try to put them into practice. And thank you for being an ambassador of someone who does keep trying and giving us permission to try to do it as well. The book is close to the bone. And if folks want to order it
on
Amazon.com, right? But we can also get more information about all the incredible projects and works you're doing, right, Linda?
Yes, on dangersnacks.com, DANGERSNACKS.com, dangersnacks.com.
Oops. Hold on. It's actually danger and then snacks with an X, SNAX. It's dangerous ideas and bite-sized morsels. So I'm so sorry I wasn't clear. Dangerous
That's
snacks.
Okay. DANGERSNAX.com.
Yes, that's me. So, and you can find a link to the book there. And ultimately, I'll put this podcast up there. And yeah, if you want to follow our crazy lives.
And I would like to recommend to our listeners that you can get your copy of this, but I'm going to buy a bunch of these and give them to my girlfriends. And we're going to have a conversation, which is what Rhonda did for us. Yes, but it is one of those books that, it's not too thick. You can read it. And it's a great discussion. It's a great discussion book. That's my plan.
Yeah, my plan as well.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for this podcast. I'm so impressed with you women and doing this. And I think you guys are also making the world a better place by providing this resource for, all of us who just want to be checking in with ourselves and thinking about things deeply. So thank you.
We got to do it.
Here.
Yes. Thank you, Karen, so much. And we just want to make sure too, before we go, is we thank you to our talented and skilled production duo behind the scenes, Kathy Carswell and Susan Nagel. And go forth, be brave, live well, do good, because it's Act 2 and
you're on.
Act 2 You're On was brought to you by Act 2 Share Our Stage.
You can find us at a2yo.com and also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Don't keep us a secret. Share us with your friends.
Please listen and subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. You can support us using Patreon. Thanks for listening.